So what if the largest lake in the world was just slowly vanishing? Now, this isn't the plot of some disaster movie, it's the very real story unfolding right now in the Caspian Sea. We're going to take a look at why this massive body of water is shrinking and what the future might actually hold for the millions of people who depend on it.
Okay, first things first, let's just get a sense of the scale here. The Caspian Sea is absolutely immense. I mean, it is the biggest inland body of water on the entire planet. It's this massive, salty, drainless lake that's so big it has shaped the economy, the culture, and the environment of 5 different countries for centuries.
You know, there's this old Russian saying, "Moria po kolena," which basically translates to, "the sea is knee-deep." It's something you'd say when a problem seems small, manageable, no big deal. But for the Caspian, this saying is becoming a literal and, frankly, a much more worrying reality. The sea is in fact getting shallower.
So what on earth is going on? Well, to really get why the Caspian is shrinking, you have to look at its water balance, which, to put it mildly, has been thrown completely out of whack.
It's actually a pretty simple idea. Think of it like a bathtub, right? The water level only stays the same if the amount of water coming in from the faucet is equal to the amount of water going out the drain. For the Caspian Sea to be stable, it needs that exact same perfect balance between its inflow and its outflow.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Look at where the Caspian gets its water. A whopping 79% of all the water coming in is from river runoff. Rain falling directly on the sea? That's only 20%. This makes the sea incredibly dangerously dependent on the health of the rivers that feed it.
And this slide really sets up the central conflict, doesn't it? The main faucet is all that river water, and the Volga River alone accounts for up to 85% of that. But the main drain? Well, there is no drain. It isn't a river flowing out to an ocean. It's just evaporation. Water literally turning into vapor and vanishing from the sea's surface.
So here's the bottom line. As global temperatures go up, the rate of evaporation from the Caspian's massive surface has gone way up too. So much more water is leaving the tub than is coming in from the faucet. And the result? The water level has no choice but to drop.
So just how bad could it get? Well, back in 2021, a major scientific study painted a truly alarming picture, one that really grabbed the attention of scientists and governments all over the region.
Just look at these numbers. This forecast showed what would happen under 2 different climate change scenarios. You can think of RCP 4.5 as a kind of moderate emissions future, and RCP 8.5 as a more pessimistic, high emissions one. Now, even in the moderate scenario, the sea level is predicted to fall to nearly -32 meters by 2050. But in that high emissions world, wow, it could drop below -33 meters. That is a catastrophic decline that would literally redraw the map.
To really see what that means, here's a map showing the Caspian coastline back in 2020. Okay? Get a good look. Remember this shape.
Now let's jump forward to the projection for 2030. You can already see the shoreline pulling back, especially up in that shallow northern part of the sea. It's exposing these huge new areas of land.
And then by 2050, under that more pessimistic forecast, the change is just staggering. The whole northern part of the Caspian, which is this crucial ecological zone, has almost entirely vanished. The sea is fundamentally and dramatically reshaped. It's a really shocking image of a potential future. But this is where the story takes a really fascinating turn. Just as everyone was trying to process this grim forecast, a totally new assessment came out, and it challenged this whole idea of a continuous, unstoppable decline. I mean, that vision of 2050 seems incredibly bleak, but was it really set in stone? Well, some new data suggests the story might be a bit more complicated.
In early 2026, a scientist named Mykola Bulgakov from the Institute of Water Problems offered a completely different perspective. He argued that after falling for decades, the sea level had actually hit a point of equilibrium. Now, he wasn't predicting a rebound, but a stabilization, that the drop might be over.
And the key number in his whole assessment is -29 meters. See, in 2025, the Caspian's water level hit this historic low. Bulgakov's team suggests this wasn't just another step down on the staircase, but potentially a new floor for the sea.
So, instead of that nonstop plunge toward the future we saw in those maps, this new assessment suggests a different reality, a new normal. The idea is that the sea has shrunk, yes, but may have stopped shrinking, and could now just kind of fluctuate around this new, lower baseline. But let's be really clear here. Even if the sea has stabilized, we're still left with a permanently shallower Caspian. And this new reality has huge consequences for everyone and everything that depends on it.
Stabilized doesn't mean problem-free.
Think about it. A lower sea level means ports and shipping channels become too shallow for big ships. It makes offshore oil operations way more complicated. And of course, it has a devastating effect on coastal ecosystems, basically wiping out the habitats for all the unique plants and animals that had adapted to the old shoreline.
You know what this whole story really highlights is the scientific process itself. These conflicting forecasts, that's not a failure of science. It actually shows how our understanding is constantly being updated. As we get new data and run new models, our picture of the future gets a little bit clearer, even if it also gets more complex.
So we end up with this question. The Caspian may have found a temporary floor, a new, shallower equilibrium. But in a world where the climate continues to warm and change, the one thing we can be sure of is that nothing is permanent. How long can this new balance possibly hold?